Right, so this is basically, can everyone see? Good, good, good. I'm going to go from this side to this. I'm going to get very fit today. So we're going to talk about what LinkedIn is, because it's very important you understand that it's not Facebook, and it's not Twitter, and it's definitely not Tinder. So don't confuse it. It is very much a peer-to-peer network in a business context. And there are now 500 million people, professionals, on LinkedIn. And they're not trying to compete with someone like WeChat or Facebook, which has billions, because they're only after professionals. And that's absolutely key to remember, is they only want to target professionals, they don't want to target consumers. And as you can see here, outside of Australia and New Zealand, which is pretty packed when it comes to LinkedIn, the fastest growing countries in the world, and the biggest two countries in the world after America, are actually China and India. And then you've got places like Indonesia, Philippines, and other kind of places like that, which are basically going to grow and grow and grow and grow. So Asia is actually the fastest growing countries in the region of the world when it comes to LinkedIn. And pretty soon it'll be the dominant region in the whole world, because China is going to get bigger, Indonesia is getting bigger, Philippines, Vietnam, even places like Myanmar. Myanmar has a better internet connection than Australia. I kid you not. Their internet speed is faster than you guys. I've tried both in the last couple of months, and Myanmar wins. And when Myanmar beats you at internet, you know you're in serious trouble, because they're not supposed to do that. But this is where it's going to grow. I mean, places like India and China is just phenomenal. And as everyone probably knows, India is now the biggest country in the world when it comes to Facebook. It'll be the biggest country in the world when it comes to LinkedIn as well, because it has 1.4 billion people who are just going to basically grasping the need to get out of India. And that's why you get so many messages on LinkedIn for people trying to get out of India who are from India. Oh, there we go. So as I mentioned, I came to Asia about 8 years ago and had 250 connections. But then I started using LinkedIn, and now I've got 55,000 followers. Unfortunately, LinkedIn have this cap of 30,000 connections. So a couple of years ago, I had 75,000 connections, and they reduced it, because they reduced everybody to 30,000 connections and made everyone else followers, which are not very good when it comes to lead generation. I'll explain why when I talk about lead generation a bit later on. And then I've been awarded LinkedIn Power Profile just by using LinkedIn on a regular basis. There's about 50 of these in Australia. Every year it's awarded, 45 in Singapore, 45 in Hong Kong, and about 50 in the UK. No other country gets Power Profile status, but you have to have the most viewed profile to do so. So we have the two companies, we have the two books. So it's basically the book sells the company. So it's a very simple way of kind of doing personal branding. And there's basically 4 steps to success on LinkedIn. The first one's very much about personal branding. It's very much about you, your personal brand. Second one's about employer branding, about the company. Third one's about content marketing, thought leadership, so we'll talk a bit about that. And the fourth one is then about social selling, about messaging. But that only works if you do the other 3 parts right. So I'll share this deck with you afterwards, by the way, so you don't need to take furious notes, but I will share the deck after you. Oh, okay. So I love this quote, not because I like James Blunt, obviously, because nobody actually likes James Blunt, and they wouldn't admit it publicly if they did. But basically, I like this because it sums up LinkedIn. I'm self-deprecating because I'm British. If I was American, I really would tell you how great I was. And that's what they do on LinkedIn. You get people like Americans think they're geniuses. As I created water. No, you didn't. You started my LinkedIn? I did. No, you didn't, though. But so you have to basically be more American to compete. And English people and Asians and Australians and Kiwis have a real problem when it comes to this. So no, I can't claim credit for that. No, it's a team event. No, I couldn't possibly claim credit. The trouble is, if you don't claim credit, there will be some American comes along and claims the credit for you. And you go, well, how did he get the job? Well, he put it on his LinkedIn. But it was a team effort. Yes, but he put it on his LinkedIn and nobody else did. So therefore, the person employing him thought he did the whole thing. So beware. Beware of the Americans. So LinkedIn is also a gamification platform. Does anyone know what I mean by that? Nobody knows something about that. Yes? Someone said yes over here? No? Okay. So basic gamification platform is the more you do, the more they reward you. So basically, the more you update things, the more you put your status on, the more you share things, the more you connect, the more you put you up the status. So the rankings and the search is based on how much you use it. The problem with that is if you stop using it for any period of time, your ratings plummet. So literally they incentivize you to make it become addictive. So that's why you have to use it all time, 24/7. And if you're not using it, somebody else to use it for you on a regular basis. Because it is very addictive, but it does work. And if you Google yourself, as I obviously Googled Paula, normally the first thing that comes up is in fact your LinkedIn profile. That's why it's phenomenally powerful. And the first thing that comes up when it comes to your company page is normally LinkedIn profile too. And normally both these trump things like Facebook and Twitter and other places, and even your website. Because LinkedIn's powerful profile and the amount of substantiation that goes into it means that Google's looking at it in terms of rankings and SEO. So do think about that. It's not just about LinkedIn itself, it's about Google and how people find you through Google. So number 1 tip is your profile photograph. Very, very important. You need to be outwardly looking, it to be friendly. It needs to be like this, your friendly face is smiling. Because it's just like this, a networking event. You approach friendly people. You approach people who are smiley. You don't approach the weirdo in the corner who's got his back turned, his arms crossed. You just don't do that. So don't do this. Because as much as I might aspire one day to being George Clooney, I'm not. So I can't claim to be him. And as much as I want you to show me the money, I also can't be Tom Cruise either, so do be authentic. And if this guy walked in the room today, you'd be running away because he's headless. And unless he's selling shirts and ties and suits, it's not a great look, is it? And if you're going to use a Shutterstock image, it's best to remove the watermark and the number where the image actually came from, so that someone actually believes you're that pretty, and they can be disappointed when they meet you, a bit like Tinder. And don't do this. These are like what I call your classic Facebook photographs. This is like you're having a party. Obviously not in Sydney because everything shuts here at 9 p.m. But in Singapore, you might be having a party, and actually, you're singing, you dressed up as a panda, and you're singing "I Will Survive," and someone says, "Let's take a picture and put it in a LinkedIn." You're thinking, "Why not? It's 3 a.m. I've had a lot to drink, and I'm singing "I Will Survive" in a panda outfit." You'll agree to virtually anything. And then in the morning, you go, "That wasn't a very good idea." And then this one's like, unless you're selling big inflatable ducks, it's really not a great look, is it? And which one's Melita? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. How can you communicate with someone when you don't know which one you're talking to? And there's 5 very strange people to talk to up there. I have no idea who any of them are. And I don't get this at all. Why would you do this? Why would you put animals on your LinkedIn? This one's like, okay, the koala bear. If you're Australian, then maybe, but he's from Malaysia. This guy over here is the head of Marketing International and Medical Tourism. What's a leopard got to do with medical tourism? I have no idea. And this one's even worse. This one's a CEO, he's got a parrot. What's a CEO and a parrot got to do with each other? I just don't get why you would do that. It's just weird. And Jo really, I don't know what was going through Jo's mind when she was doing this. She's got some kind of horse's head on her, she's jumping. And it's like, was she on drugs? Was the photographer on drugs? Are we all on drugs? Someone's like, just a very strange photograph to use. This guy tried to fit in as many different photographs as humanly possible into that one photograph, not realizing that obviously on your phone it's this small and you can't see any of them. And then this guy did the same thing, not realizing that he's cut off his head and his interviewer's head and actually just looks ridiculous. Just use one picture. There's not enough room, there really is not this big. But people tend to do this. I know. She's being creative and ironic, and I get told off and said, no, she's expressing herself, she's being creative. I say, really? She's the only one doing this on LinkedIn? Really? The only person doing it? I can find you dozens of examples of people doing this. I especially like the one with the bag over her head. I think that's fantastic. Maybe she's really that ugly, she has to put a bag over her head to basically see it. I don't know. And Christopher has too many hands for my liking. Scary. And Elizabeth went for the whole Tinder look here. She went, okay, I'm going to dress up in a maid's outfit and pretend to be some kind of cat. The problem is, look at her position. She's the human resources manager at Hyatt's Hotels. So that joke didn't work, did it? Okay, fine. It's the first time I've tried that joke. Okay, fine. So basically, she's the person you go to for sexual harassment cases, and she dressed like that. You really can't take her seriously dressed like that, can you? But my personal favourite is definitely this one. Only someone who works for Google and lives in America, obviously with the gun, has such a ridiculous profile like that. But if you do it properly, it increases your views by 14 times. So think about all your photographs and think, is it going to make someone click on it? And then your background picture is phenomenally important. So you see Paula's is brilliant, of course. Boss the future. Boss your future. It's getting the point across. It's branding straight away. So you can do the same thing. It's free. And then this is the co-working space that I live in Singapore, for example. Well, I don't live in there, but it feels like that way sometimes. Using the background picture to market that. Aaron markets Dash Service Suites in Hong Kong. Again, using the background picture. Mark here markets the Conrad in Seoul. Again, using the background picture. You can do this too. It's all completely free on LinkedIn. And then Shah has a book out, which is fantastic. She's marketing the book. Andrew here is marketing. In fact, he's done TED Talks, books, and that's his branding. You can do the same thing. Put your branding up there so people can see it in one fell swoop. And then I like using quotes. It's a quote from my late granddad who told me when I was 9 years old, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I didn't know what he meant at the time, but I thought, yeah, fantastic. When you think about LinkedIn, that's what it's about. It's about things like this, meeting people like you. It's who you know, not what you know. Don't do this. Nothing at all. You're missing a trick. You're using that whole background out there to miss a trick. And 90% of people do this. And it's like it's free to put your branding up there. And don't just put a picture of Sydney up there either, because there's millions of other people there who also put a picture of Sydney up there, or Singapore, or Hong Kong. Put something individual. And don't do this. Don't have a great picture put up there and don't check what it looks like when it's up there. It doesn't look very good. And then look at your headline. Your headline's phenomenally important. So if you do nothing else, as a result of seeing this presentation today, change your headline, optimize your headline. You're in control of your headline. So I use this. I slightly cheat, because obviously this is not my whole name, but I use the whole thing, and occasionally LinkedIn tell me off and say, Chris, that's not your name. Unless you remove it, we're going to ban you again. So I use this. Basically, this is Chris J is my first name, and then this is my maiden name. So LinkedIn has introduced maiden names now. Obviously I don't have a maiden name, so I thought, wow, more SEO. So you can basically use the maiden name part to SEO your profile. So I use that on a regular basis, I change it. And then I've got personal branding from entrepreneurs, that's my surname. Now most people just have this, Rockstar LinkedIn profile, etc., LinkedIn best-selling author. This is your headline, so this appears everywhere. But that's my brand positioning, only NASDAQ listed CEO with a mohawk, so I carry that through. And one of my friends did this. He said he's the only non-NASDAQ listed CEO on LinkedIn with a dog on his head. So he's got a dog on his head. Okay, fair enough. It's not very funny. And Ross here went for founder at Nice and Polite, building connections between brands and consumers. Quite straight, but gets the point across about what he actually does do. So think about your company, think about you. What's your brand positioning statement? Benjamin here, public speaking coach. Got it there. Maybe he helps clients speak effectively for business, impact, and sales. So you know exactly what he does. Fantastic. Cindy here, I love this. I like to blow shit up. I am the Michael Bay of business. Does everyone know who Michael Bay is, yes? Okay, just checking. I did this presentation a couple of weeks ago and nobody knew who Michael Bay was, so nobody got the joke. Mike Naki here, I love this. The coolest guy in Nashville. Google it to see for yourself because he does SEO. So we did, and he is. He's the coolest guy in Nashville. Brilliant. But imagine he came up second. Imagine people were doing this and he's the second coolest guy in Nashville. That wouldn't be so good, would it? And even love doctors are on LinkedIn. So this love doctor is very specific. He only does love doctoring in India, Delhi, because obviously Delhi is a different country, UK, USA, and Canada. So very specific, doesn't do Australia. Doesn't do Singapore, Hong Kong. Very specific way, he does love doctoring. I'm not sure about his office. I'm just thinking if he started a fire here, I'm not sure they'd be too impressed with the Australian authorities the fire brigade be coming down within minutes. Don't do this. Lonely and young girl. Even if you are lonely and young, don't put it on your LinkedIn profile. And if you're a hot girl, don't do this. She's a hot girl. And what I love about her is where she works. She works in mental health. But she's a hot girl. I think these two things might be connected. Don't do this. It's not Facebook. This woman went completely mental. What are these about? Unicorns and stars and shapes and rockets and hundreds of diamonds? I mean, what are you trying to do? It's just ridiculous. A human being. Albert here felt the need to put human being on his LinkedIn. As if someone's going, you know, I need to talk to a human being today. It's like, oh. Shelley Shower, wife of Stephen Shower. That's terrible, especially as Stephen did not reciprocate. Stephen does not say husband of Shelley Shower. Surely he should. Equal opportunities here, because Dale did. Dale says spouse of owner of Mexican restaurant. So he has no status by himself. He's merely going out with someone who owns a dodgy restaurant in Hong Kong. Fantastic. Kate and Gary Wallace. So they're conjoined. And they describe themselves as founder. Founder, no S, founder. So there's literally just one of them. What I really want to know is when they get divorced, he says cynically, who gets the LinkedIn? You have the kids, I want the LinkedIn. No, you have the kids, I want the LinkedIn. It's going to happen, there'll be a court case. You watch, there'll be a court case. Shaq O'Neal, owner, a lot of companies. Inc. Fantastic. Dave K, executive demigods at Miracle Health. Sorry, Dave, that's not a picture to sell Miracle Health, now is it? Lecturer at retired and enjoying time with the family. Does he look like he's enjoying time with the family? Or would rather be back at work? I think he'd rather be back at work. My favourite though, the amount of detail in here is a genuine profile. He's got more connections than any of you guys. Dracula the vampire. 125 years he's been doing this, providing anti-aging and life extension solutions. He's, of course, founder of Bite of Life company. Previously, of course, the biz dev director at Coffins R Us. And he did an entrepreneurial course at Transylvania University. At night, clearly. Only at night. But your headline appears everywhere, so think about it. When you share something, it appears. When you like something, it appears. When you basically want to comment on something, it appears. It appears in groups. It appears when you comment in groups. It appears in the mobile version. It appears in other people's profiles. So it basically follows you around every single place on LinkedIn. So you think about where you want to use it. It appears in search. Everywhere. Look at mine, look at his. Everywhere you go, your headline follows you around. So think about the words that you want to describe yourself, because it's a social selling way. And it's free. You can use whatever words you want to bring people to your profile, to sell to them, to market to them. So think about that. Everywhere you go on LinkedIn, it follows you around. So you see your profile like you would be on a web page on LinkedIn, on Google. So for example, search works the same way. So you need to optimize your profile. So think about that. So you put personal branding into LinkedIn. I come top amongst 65,000 people. When he comes, I think, third, one of my other team come fourth. So think about optimizing your profile. You put personal branding into posts, for example, or jobs, it comes up very high. So you have to optimize your profile in the same way you optimize your website using Google. And a lot of people misunderstand that basically LinkedIn's a search just like Google is. So think about that. And analytics gives you feedback on a constant basis. So weekly search appearances tells you how many times you've appeared in weekly search. And it's free and it's organic. You can measure yourself and how well you're doing. So think about that. Think about how you're getting found and how you want to get found. And then you want to combine both for maximum employer branding. So as you grow your companies, you need to think about your personal branding. These guys are brilliant. Based in Sydney here, they use this wonderful little orange. Something simple as that. Free, and it's catchy, it's really funky. Everyone does it, apart from this girl here. Did not get the memo, or basically is looking for another job. Either way, basically, people can see that she's not really following the brand guidelines here of orange. So they follow all the way through, apart from their background page, their company page, which has kind of missed the trick. They should have branded that. And then they haven't really been posting. So they've kind of done so good, and then not the rest of it. So they need to really post on a very regular basis. Last time was 6 months ago. I love the way Alison does it here. She turns all the profiles into red and white. Really cool. Again, free. Just a bit of imagination. Doesn't need much. And every single person who works for it's red and white. And then you see every single person she's connected to by this. She stands out. It's really, really cool. Then these guys went the other way, went black and white. So these guys are in New Zealand, they basically put Spur on every single picture. Professional photograph, branding. Really, really cool. And then Ogilvy did the same thing. They have Ogilvy in the background picture. So it's good employer branding. You want to think about your employer branding, your employees. And Amoria Bond, nice background picture, nice picture. Very, very simple. Hudson did the same thing. So it's really, really straightforward. And then you can really use community engagement. These guys gave away purple hats. And they said every single person who used a purple hat on their LinkedIn, they gave money to charity. Really, really simple. Cost them nothing, but every single person did it. Really, really straightforward. Cost them absolutely nothing, but a nice PR stunt. And you can use it with book launches. We use both books, we market the books through LinkedIn, nothing else. Put the background pictures, did blogs, and then promoted the new book by doing the same thing. Just change the creative on a constant basis. Then you can tell people where you are. So the moment mine says I'm in Melbourne and Sydney. So I change it all the time because the headline follows you around. So don't underestimate it. So this one says live in Melbourne. This one says live in Sydney. This one says live in Hong Kong. So basically it lets people know where you are, and then they talk to you. They say, oh, well, you're in Hong Kong, you're in Sydney, you're in Melbourne. Let's have a coffee, let's have a drink. Otherwise, how do they know you're there? So think about that. Now you want to add your personal brand story, which is basically the summary section here. This is not about your job. This is not about your experience. It's actually about your personal brand story. So your biog. So think about that, but make it interesting. Because if it's not interesting, then nobody goes to see more. They will not do see more. So put something interesting there, not something generic. So think about, what's going to pull somebody in. So, if you put, I'm a wedding singer and IT recruitment, you'd read it. If you just read, I'm a IT recruitment, you wouldn't. So think about that. What's your kind of summary section going to say? And once you say it, talk about yourself in the first person, not the third person. Because like a networking event, you want to talk about yourself in the first person. You don't go to a networking event and talk about yourself like Chris said this and Chris said that. Because if you did, people start moving away from you very slowly. Think you were mad. So do the same thing here. Don't do this. Nothing at all. You're missing an opportunity. Or this, a lifelong passion for problem solving. What does that mean? I don't know. It's not personal because it appears everybody in the world is problem solving all the time. Well, this guy just basically read a dictionary and went, how many words can I put in there? So he's put flexible, global, interdisciplinary with a view for the big picture. What does that mean? Nothing. So put it personal. It has to be personal about you. This one's even worse. Business leader. What does that mean? No idea. It could be anybody, anywhere. Who wrote this? Guy from LinkedIn. Really should know better. And friends tell me, obviously I've never been to this, but friends tell me this apparently is the best tantric massage service in Shanghai. What I love about this is the amount of detail she goes into this. You have to be fun-loving, sensual, and an adventurous art lover. So if you ring up, you're going, I'm an entrepreneur in LinkedIn marketing, she says, I'm not going to see you. But if you say you like Monet and climbing mountains, she basically says, come along. What I really love about what she does is she offers guided tours, translation, and personal secretarial services. And also, which would never happen in Singapore, they sponsor one of Shanghai's leading art galleries. Can you imagine someone in Sydney, the National Museum, being sponsored by a spa? No, I couldn't imagine that either. Ooh, and don't do this, don't put your CV on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is your CV and it looks terrible. My personal favourite, and girls, if you're going to dump somebody and you want to find a new guy, don't do this on LinkedIn. I hate cheating, lying, and fighting. My ex-boyfriend cheated on me, so since I have to be single, I need to find someone special on LinkedIn. And if I find that someone, I will be with him for the rest of my life. Anyone seen Fatal Attraction? They're seeing bunnies boiling now. They run away, run from this girl a million miles. She scares the life out of me. Nope, add your experience as well. So this is where you can talk about your job. So Paula has this experience, for example, talking about the Academy of Entrepreneurs, which is fantastic, with some great creative, great videos. We make sure that every single person, are black or dark, actually copies and pastes the description of our companies from the LinkedIn company page to brand consistency. Because if you don't do that, what you get is you get company employees basically talking about what they do at the company, not what the company could do for somebody else. And they forget it's external, not internal. So you always have to remember it's external. Think about that. Don't do things like this. Nothing at all. And she's in sterility assurance. I don't know what it means, but it sounds very painful. And this one here is the love doctor. I love the love doctor description. What he does is affair, other person. How do you have an affair by yourself? I'm not sure. And then he says he can get your lover back. And then he sorts all your problems out. Even though he's just a love doctor, he's an amazing love doctor. He sorts your divorce out, and then when he's fixed off your divorce, he says, how's your business going, Chris? That's a funny question for the love doctor. Oh, I can sort that out as well, brilliant. And then he says, how's your MBA coming along? Because he sorts out your study problems as well. Absolutely fantastic, this love doctor. And he has a special niche, which I really love, which I I should have used him a couple of wives ago. He says, be free from enemy / second wife. It's like, what happened to the first wife? It's a very specific service, that. Get rid of your second wife. Obviously big for love doctors in India. And this guy's brilliant. This guy is currently out of work. So LinkedIn tell me that he's celebrating a work anniversary at out of work. And not only that, they want me to congratulate him for being 4 years at out of work. Can you imagine how many people just went click, 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 and he got lots of congratulations for being out of work for 4 years. Fantastic. So add visual content, really, really important. LinkedIn's a very visual medium. Add video. Video is phenomenal on LinkedIn because you can watch video on LinkedIn. Watch it on the app, watch it on the laptop. You think about that in terms of how you communicate your personal brand. Can be an interview about you, can be you doing a talk. Very, very straightforward. Same thing with things like website. We've got website on there, we've got our LinkedIn there, we've got our YouTube on there. It's visual, it's very, very visual, LinkedIn. Very easy to do. So you basically go into edit your summary section or experience, and it says upload, which can be PDF, or it can be infographic or photographs. Or can be linked to media, which is basically your website, or your YouTube, or your SlideShare. Then it pops up, and it's much more visually attractive. So think about that. Don't just put a web link in. So don't do things like this, because this doesn't come up. You can't click on a web link on LinkedIn. So don't put a web link in there, put it into the media section, and then it comes up as a visual, which you can then click on. So don't fall for this, because it looks ridiculous, and you can't click on it. Add your skills as well. So you want to make sure that you have your top 3 skills at the top, and you can manipulate your skills. You control your skills, nobody else does. So you can't complain you're being endorsed for skills that you haven't chosen, because you're in control of them. So if you're being endorsed for things like banjo playing and Thai massage, it's your fault. So think about the skills you want to be endorsed for. Make sure all 50 are filled. Don't do this. You do not want to be endorsed for PowerPoint, because basically people assume you know how to use a computer these days. You definitely want to be endorsed for things like Excel and social media, because again, people assume you know how to use this. And if you're awesome, particularly for our American friends, if you're awesome, you can indeed be endorsed for both awesomeness and general awesomeness. I don't know what the difference, I haven't asked an American about it, but apparently there's something different. The irony is, this guy's an English real estate agent, and he's definitely not awesome. So I pointed this out to them, and he was quite shocked that people were endorsing him for awesomeness. But what happened? One of his friends had come along and just basically added the skill, and then got other friends to start endorsing his skills for being awesome. So beware, people could be endorsing you for things like wine drinking and banjo playing and all sorts of things. So fill your skills. And then you can obviously market your company through content marketing. Now LinkedIn believes in this. 411. So it's very important when it comes to content marketing. So one hard sell post, so one post about your company, one post about your service, and then one soft sell post about the industry you're in, and then 4 completely unrelated posts about other things. Could be Australia, innovation, leadership, could be something to do with marketing, something content, could be you at an event, but not about your company, because then when you post something about your company, it's more compelling, people take more notice. If all you do is post about your company, people unfollow. They stop seeing your feed, and you can't sell to them anymore. You can't market to them. So do think about your content marketing strategy. It's really, really, really important. So you can become a thought leader on LinkedIn. Tony Hughes from Melbourne is one of the top posters on LinkedIn. As you can see here, he's got 406 articles, which is pretty amazing. It's basically about 3 a week. So he's pretty phenomenal. He's got 210,000 followers. Only 3 years ago, he had 8,000. So he went from 8,000 to 210,000 in 3 years, just by posting articles, posting articles, posting articles. And they're interesting articles that are getting tens of thousands of views. Quite phenomenal, but anyone can do it. You can do it. You can be the next Tony Hughes if you really want to. And he literally is getting hundreds of likes, but all he's talking about is business. Some about his business, some about what he does, some not. But he gets lots and lots of likes and shakes, but what he does do is he thanks every single person. That's true engagement, because what that does is that then appears on his feed and then everybody else's feed. It makes the thing go viral. So don't put a blog up there and ignore it. The whole point is you have to thank, you have to like every single person who comments and likes, who's taken the time to engage, because they will become your biggest advocates. They become your amplifiers, and you need amplifiers for your content. Think about your industry, think about what you do. You need people to share your content, but you have to appreciate people to do that. So Tony Hughes is really good at doing that. Roy Gore is also very good at Manulife. He basically, very boring industry, insurance, but he made it funky. He's made his style interesting. So he talks about things like 3 ingredients of great teams, getting tens of thousands of views. Just basically making sure that it's not just about Manulife, not talking about insurance. He's talking about interesting things relevant to anybody, but bringing people in and selling Manulife through it by not selling it. That's the way content marketing should work. And Arno Sorensen is probably one of the best in the world at doing this. Obviously he's not doing it. He's got a whole team of people in Hong Kong and New York doing this, but he's producing lots and lots of blogs. And most of the blogs are not about Marriott Starwood. None of them are saying, oh, we've got a new Marriott opened up, there's a $49 room, or we've got special deals on. He's not talking about that. He's talking about Marriott Starwood in a different way. He's talking about crossing boundaries. He's talking about Cuba. Same thing with someone like Sam Shank. Sam Shank runs a small website called Hotel Tonight. And again, he's used content marketing on LinkedIn to talk about branding and content marketing and leadership. And none of it, apart from this one, mentions Hotel Tonight. This one gets 500,000 views. It's all about getting up in the morning, which of course is linked to being in a hotel, but not selling the hotel directly. So think about your content marketing plan. Don't sell your service all the time. Sell something that is interesting to people who are interested in what you have to say, and they'll come into your business, they'll come into your service, and then they're more likely to take up your service and know about what you do. Think about it from that perspective, it's a different way. So the most followed profile on LinkedIn is actually this guy, of course, Richard Branson, 12 million followers. And he's very, very clever at using words and pictures to actually market the Virgin brand. He doesn't actually ever talk about why you should buy Virgin, but he uses content marketing and his brand, his powerful personal brand, to actually market the entire Virgin brand, whether it's Virgin Media, whether it's Virgin Atlantic, whether it's Virgin Australia, whether it's Virgin Mobile. Very, very clever the way he uses pictures of him with people and words like fun and passion, entrepreneurial. Very, very clever, but nobody's following his company pages. So basically, 100,000 people follow his top pages like Virgin Equity or Virgin Atlantic. They follow him, so it's all about you. He uses his brand to make sure you follow, and you basically go him to market his Virgin brands. So you want to share engaging posts. Now, these days on LinkedIn, they've changed the algorithm. They're doing this all the time. So short posts now work better than long posts. So what I mean by a short post is this. So on the feed, it looks like this. And then it comes up like this. So basically, it's 250 words, which can be spontaneous. You can talk about anything. So I went to a Japanese restaurant in Singapore, and they served Perrier Jouet in Moet & Chandon glasses. I thought, that's just ridiculous. And they weren't actually selling Moet & Chandon, so everyone was toasting Moet & Chandon with Perrier Jouet champagne. So I wrote a post about it, and it got 10,000 views, sorry. But more importantly, people from Perrier Jouet noticed it, because it had gone viral by that stage, and then sent me a couple of bottles of champagne and went and had to go to a restaurant, which is brilliant, something as simple like that. So notice the little things that are actually interesting. That's not selling my company at all, but it's engaging, makes people come to my profile, they see what we do. I often do a review of the week, and that works very well as well. It easily gets, say, 15,000 views, for example. I did this one a couple of weeks ago, complaining about this kind of post. The irony was that me complaining about the post then got 34,000 people viewing the post, saying it was ridiculous that everyone was showing these posts, thus proving that these posts unfortunately now work. So you have to adapt to the way the algorithm works on LinkedIn. Now, I'm not the master at doing this whatsoever. People like Bridget is, she's getting like literally hundreds of thousands of people viewing her profile. And this guy in the UK, he's getting millions. I mean, his top post has got 5.5 million views, which is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And he just keeps on posting like this. Very, very simple, but lots of it about HR and about talent. Get 134,000 likes on LinkedIn is pretty amazing, pretty absolutely amazing. It just looks like this, just really, really simple. So, you don't have to be a Shakespeare to do this. Something simple, you all can do the same thing. You all can come up with something just as good as this, because this is nothing amazing, and you have something probably better than what he has to share. You can do the same thing, and then you get to market your company and market yourself through content marketing. And you can do video now. So I did a post about this, which you may or may not have seen. So I videoed it, quick video on my phone in my office in Singapore, shared it, and then LinkedIn basically told me I had it. Something is easy, so you can now do video on LinkedIn as well. So really, really simple. You can create your own content marketing plan without any expense whatsoever. And the best visual content works best. So this is the #1 social seller in Australia, a guy called Mark McGuinness on the right-hand side. Something simple like that. Well, I met him this week, shared it, and it gets 14,000 views. People like to see people doing business on LinkedIn. In that respect, it's a bit like Facebook, just has to be in a business context, and it works phenomenally well. I shared this about a year ago when I was marketing the book. I still like this, because basically it's the before Trump became president, I predicted he'd become president. It was last May. I was obviously joking. I didn't know he'd become president. But I was out selling his book on Amazon.com. And he's got 5 books, and I've only got 1 book. But unfortunately, he became president. I'm not quite there yet. And then in France, for example, I was out selling Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. Now, what I'm doing there is I'm showing a screen grab of the book next to other entrepreneurs, and obviously selling the book without actually selling the book. So it's a way of just communicating it. People share it, people like it. You need to find different ways to market your product. And then I did a couple of months ago, I did 3 talks in one day in Auckland. So I did a beforehand, I said what the talks were going to be, and then I took pictures at the end of it, and then took pictures there. So it's very important you do things like that. People love it. People like to hear what you're doing and what you're seeing around the world. Do things like that. Next time you're out there at an event, take a picture, put it on LinkedIn. Do interviews on LinkedIn as well. People like to see interviews that are not on LinkedIn. And people like to see infographics. I like this. It says things like smarter ideas for smarter cities. Just 3 infographics, just communicating something, especially if it's something like IBM. when it's quite difficult to market your brand, take something visual, like an infographic, and do something like this. Really, really simple. I like this one. Looks like free beer. It's not. It says free Wi-Fi, great beer. But it makes you smile, it makes you kind of look to it. That's quite cool. I like this guy here. This is the smuggest hotel manager in the whole of the world. He's the general manager of the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun. And he's got one picture here showing how amazing his hotel is. And of course, he's got lots and lots of comments of people saying, we must have our next event at the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun. We must take our clients to the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun. It's like people going, wow, that just looks amazing. And it's just by one picture, he's just marketing his brand. And if you have a big report, you can do things like this, infographics. These guys produce 1,000-page reports. Well, how do you do that? How do you communicate it? Well, you take a few of them, put it in an infographic, and then share. Really, really straightforward. So then you're driving people back to where the report is by using a simple infographic. Do the same thing. And obviously you have to share, you have to comment, you have to tag. So when Andrew here, for example, who's the marketing director of Microsoft, was talking about the new Surface Pro, he basically tagged lots of people, including me. And now I'm a Surface Pro ambassador. So I then shared a photograph of me using the Surface Pro. Simple as that. Really, really straightforward. And you can be doing things like this. So I got a social selling conference in Melbourne on Friday, for example, which is fantastic. If anyone wants to come along, I can get you a free ticket to get a plane down to Melbourne. But we've been tagging each other kind of all week, marketing it. So John here, who's appearing from here in Sydney, going to be down there in Melbourne on Friday. He was tagged me, so I tagged him back and put a photograph of me about to talk about the book, for example. And notifications are very, very key on LinkedIn. So everything you do on LinkedIn basically notifies the person you're doing it to, which is a way of socially selling because you're basically tagging them and they're tagging you and basically getting notified. So basically it says things like, Sharon here mentioned me in a post because he tagged me. John mentioned me in a comment because he tagged me. Yeah, Michelle mentioned a post that I mentioned, and liked a post that I mentioned in. That's why you have to engage, because the more you engage, the more people you want to influence, could be clients, could be employees, could be investors, get tagged and they see notifications of who you are. You get standout. Your personal brand gets standout. So then you have to develop a company page. We got asked before, why have a company page? Well, it's very important to at least have it up there and to use the background. So this is obviously your brand here, Academy of Entrepreneurs. Very succinctly uses Boss Your Future at the top. So, something simple like that. It's very straightforward. You can do the same thing and it's completely free. We use this one, put the Black Marketing logo up there, put a NASDAQ listed award-winning LinkedIn Marketing PLC right across it. We use the strap line as well. So every single time we share, it says enabling LinkedIn for you and NASDAQ listed award-winning LinkedIn PLC. So we have LinkedIn in the words twice. And that's important because it comes up in SEO all the time. So think about using your branding and using your strapline as a way of getting found on LinkedIn. Collective Works, my co-working space, has Why Work Alone. So every time they mention it, it comes up, Why Work Alone. Then you should be sharing engaging content. The content should not just be about your business, not just be jobs either. Think about how you market your company through content marketing. So L'Oreal talk about innovation. ANZ talk about things like too much work experience, too much experience, work-life balance. They're not talking about interest rates. They're not talking about bank accounts. They're talking about things that are relevant to people on LinkedIn. Marriott do the same thing, talk about work-life balance, talk about productivity. They're not talking about hotels. So think about things that are relevant, because I'm going to share that because it's not about a hotel. Think about that. Now, Tourism Australia, a nice picture of Australia. Qantas, and you'll see why I put this up there in a second, has a nice picture of a plane. At least they have something there that's marketing the fact they're part of Qantas. What I love about Qantas's marketing is their first post on the Qantas company page sums up why you should work at Qantas, which is basically get pissed. So they basically say, we have a Friday get together and have drinks on a Friday. Brilliant. Got my vote straight away. And their second post is about a wine entrepreneur. So they've got 2 posts about wine straight away. It's like, wow, okay, I'm joining that company. Fantastic. They got the culture just right. So don't do this. So remember that? Qantas, plane, talking about wine. Air New Zealand, Tourism New Zealand, sorry. What are they missing? How about a big picture of a hobbit? How about Gandalf? How about some mountains? How about something, the All Blacks? Nothing. So they're kind of missing a trick. But it's not just them that does that. Air New Zealand, all those marketing they do, they spend millions of dollars. Where do they make all their money? I don't know, business travelers. Where are all the business travelers? I don't know, LinkedIn? Why aren't you marketing Air New Zealand to business travelers on LinkedIn? Not even a picture of a hobbit on that one. No Gandalfs, no mountains, no fire, no dragons, no nothing. Boring. And then their LinkedIn content marketing plan is terrible. Because all they do is put up jobs. Jobs, jobs, jobs. So, Qantas, wine. Air New Zealand, jobs. Which one are you joining? I know what I'm joining. It's not the people doing sustainability managers. But they're not the only ones. Singapore Tourism Board did the same thing. And Singapore Tourism Board, was obviously where I come from, spend more money than any other brand in Singapore, and yet they seem to have forgotten how to market themselves on LinkedIn to 500 million people. And they commit the same sin as Singapore Airlines do. Now, Singapore Airlines also make all their money from business travelers. I give them tens of thousands of dollars a year. And you basically, they've missed a trick. There's no picture of Singapore, or planes, or anything. They're missing a trick. Now, messaging is the 10th tip. So once you've done all this, the personal branding, the company branding, the content marketing, then you can do the messaging. Now, there are 11 different ways to message on LinkedIn. 11. So I'm going to show you 3. So 3 succinct ones. First of all, you've got to find out if they're active or not. So now LinkedIn tell you if people are active. And that's the coloured in green dot, basically says they're active. Very important, because if they're not active on LinkedIn, it doesn't matter how great your message is or how great your brand is, they're not seeing it. So think about that from that perspective. This guy was active, and you can tell how long ago it was. And now you can change your activeness on LinkedIn to make sure it comes up or not, but don't do this, because if you do this, you can't see if other people are active. So LinkedIn are going to do this trick whereby if you switch it off, you can't see other people, so you have to switch it on basically. Now my 3 favourite ways of messaging are these 3. Invites. So invites get around having in-mails. So I use my invites as personalised invitations, but also as a selling message. So when I was doing a series of workshops, for example, in places like New York, I used LinkedIn messaging, as in invites, to actually market the events. Because it gets around their rule about I'm not connected and I have no in-mails left. Go into the search, you can tell who's actually changed jobs, mention the news, and who's active. So only about 1 in 5, see 1.6 thousand people come up there, only 300 people come up, only about 1 in 5 people actually share or actually post on LinkedIn. You don't want to be targeting the other 4 out of 5 who are basically not even on LinkedIn. They look like they are, but they're not. Just target people who are actually active on LinkedIn who are posting. And you can only tell that using the Sales Navigator platform here. If they also happen to be premium, which is this little badge here, and an open profiler, which is this little badge here, and you have shared connections, you have 4 data points where you know that if you send a nice message to them, they're going to see it. So you can only fail if they're just not interested in your message. So think about that when it comes to lead generation, for example, finding new clients. It works. All my meetings this week, for example, I've got 40 meetings lined up this week in Melbourne and Sydney, been created through Sales Navigator. These people I do not know. Basically just reached out with a very simple message saying, I want to talk to you about your LinkedIn, about your personal branding. And it works. It does work. Then you can create some target lists and profiles to follow. Now, why you should do this is because you can track if people have changed jobs. You can also track if people have mentioned the news. And most importantly, you can track if your potential client or investor or employee have actually been sharing. So if I like or comment or share Mark's content, he gets a notification saying Chris has liked your comment. Chris has commented on your comment. Chris has shared your comment. Now what this does is that basically I'm selling to him without selling to him. So when it comes to him thinking I need someone to do my personal branding or LinkedIn marketing, he's going to know who I am. So it's a very, very subtle way of doing it, but they don't know I've been saved to him as a lead. So basically you can use activity as a way of actually selling yourself and selling your service on LinkedIn. Do the same thing for companies. Very, very simple. So this is the secret sauce of LinkedIn. Open profilers. So open profilers are people on LinkedIn like myself who basically tick the box which says you can message me for free, completely for free. But you can only tell these people who these people are on Sales Navigator. Now, why this is important is because, see these 3 people here? Well, this is Eduardo Saverin. For those of you who don't know, he's the co-founder of Facebook. He lives in Singapore. And he's got billions of dollars to invest in your business. So don't all rush at once. Don't all message him straight away, but the point is he lives in Singapore because he's a tax exile. He's escaped billions of dollars in payments to the US because his condition is with the Singapore government is he invests in Singapore. So he is an open profiler, which means you can message him for free. As I say, don't all rush at once. Quick, said Eduardo, I've got an app. Please invest in my app. But basically, he wants you to invest. He wants you to contact him. The best way of doing that is to say, I want you to contact me on LinkedIn. So think about doing that. Whereas Darius here is not open profile. So you have to send him an email. Now, if you're not premium and you don't have emails left, you cannot contact Darius. So think about that. Who are you going to contact? Eduardo, not just because he's a Facebook co-founder, or Darius, who's also a millionaire. You contact Eduardo. So think about how you use that. You can only see that on Sales Navigator. That's why it's worth using. Now they're doing free trials on Sales Navigator, so you can test it and see if you like it. But it does work. I mean, we generate all our leads for all our clients and myself using Sales Navigator, so it does work. So basically, the summary is that LinkedIn is very much a gamification platform. The more you do, the more you get out of it. And you can have some tips, obviously, in this book. So 5 of you will win this book today. And then you got more tips about personal branding in this book. You can find that out as well. And if you have some questions, I do want to hear from you. And you can contact me for free, obviously, on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for listening. So you get a book anyway, because you've asked so many questions. No, not you, him. You did. Thank you very much. Thanks. So I've got 8 books left. Who's going to ask a question? Yes?
I have a question in terms of personal brand. When you were talking about the skills, many people, they don't know that actually you get more visibility if they engage you.
Yep.
How will you boost that? You know, because you cannot ask everyone, can you endorse me or whatever. Then how do you recommend to master this option of LinkedIn?
You have to basically give as much as you can basically receive. So you're giving content, you're giving endorsements, you're giving recommendations, you're basically connecting with someone and sharing, you're liking and sharing their content. You need as many advocates and amplifiers of your content, so then basically you can ask them for a favor, they can ask you for a favor. It's basically, but you have to give something first. So that's what I mean about engaging. You can't just be out there going sell, sell, sell. You've actually got to be sharing their stuff, liking their stuff, giving something back. And then basically you can ask them to endorse you if you've endorsed them first. Ask them to recommend you if you recommended them. So a lot of it's quid pro quo, but the more you put into it, like any relationship, the more you get out of it. Simple as that. There's a question over here. Got 2 questions. You only get 1 book.
You started a conversation about the thing in Russian IT recruiter.
Yeah.
And that's obviously very personal for her, but she does have a company.
Yeah.
Then you moved on to like the circles of the employees.
Open profiles.
Yeah. And the getting your team members to use your company profile. But LinkedIn is such a personal thing. Like how do you gently
I mean, basically, it's not a personal thing. That's the whole point. It's personal in that it's about you, but it's about you in a professional basis. It's not Facebook. It says exactly where you work and where you did work and who you know. So it's not personal. It's basically personal professional. It's not like Facebook where you don't have to put your company name in and no one knows who you actually work for, whereas on LinkedIn they do. So basically the best way of doing that is to basically make sure that people are following social media guidelines, which everyone has these days in their contracts. And everyone in their contract says you must represent the company in the best positive way. And you have to do that through things like LinkedIn. And if you're out there basically saying how great Bitcoin is and you work for ANZ, you've got a very short career life, haven't you? So basically you have to put it in the interest of the company and the interest of them. But normally self-interest tends to work. If you beef up your LinkedIn profile, you're more likely to get headhunted, more likely to get advanced, more likely to get promoted, more likely to build up your reputation, which will invest in for the future. That's a reason for you to start marketing your company now. And if they don't want to do that, then obviously you can see that they don't really want to enthuse about your company, and therefore, they basically may look for a job elsewhere. Bit of carrot and stick, I would say. Second question?
And then the other question was, I get a million people trying to connect with me that I don't know. And I've had some people say to me, connect with everybody, and other people say to me, don't connect with anybody that you haven't actually met, particularly if somebody asks you for a reference about them. To be fair, I've never had anybody contact me and say, do you know them? You know, so for me, I'm kind of, I don't know, what is the best practice? Do you just connect with everybody who says kind of connect to you or not?
Yes, unless they are Colonel Gaddafi's daughter.
Fair enough.
So Colonel Gaddafi on an annual basis asked me to connect with her. I'm thinking, aren't you chasing around Africa chasing after gold or something? And if you got someone who basically, is a African dictator, or, I often get generals in Syria asking me to connect. I'm thinking, really, surely you're busy. Aren't you chasing ISIS or doing something else nowadays? Basically, most people on LinkedIn are genuine. So if they're genuine, and you can basically think that they can help you and you can help them, then connect. Because you don't know who they know. And okay, there might be the barrister at Starbucks, but there might be the daughter of the CEO of ANZ. You don't know where these people, basically who they know and how they can help them. And I always look at LinkedIn more of an open area where people reach out, then you basically say yes. Like when I first came to Singapore, I reached out, people said to me, connect, yeah, come in for coffee. They didn't know me. And so as a rule, I do the same thing. People come to Singapore, reach out on LinkedIn, they basically say, can I have a cup of coffee? I say yes. Because they've actually used some attention and used some detail to actually reach out to somebody and actually they're looking for help. So most people are genuinely interested. You only have a problem with this strategy when you hit your 30,000. So you hit your 30,000, you then have to start curating your content. So I'm the only person on the whole of LinkedIn without a single Indian connection. Because I had to wipe them all out because I don't do any business in India. So I had to focus on other areas. So I went through the whole of the subcontinent, I wiped out India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. I've got no connections there anymore. I'm now going through Dubai, United Emirates. I'm going to start the Americans now. It's great fun wiping out Americans. Because you have to visit their profile to remove them as a connection. And they basically, as soon as you do that, they have obviously, they're looking at you to who viewed their profile. And they come back and go, but we were connected. Why did you disassociate with me, Chris? And basically Americans get really upset. It's great fun. Yes.
I should have accepted that princess.
Yes, you should. Princess is always good.
I don't know if they're real or what. A lot of people are studying or trying to set up a business or might have something that's a bit vague about their employment status.
Yep.
They don't want to have those anniversaries celebrated necessarily, might not look right. So would you recommend saying that you're consulting, doing business development or being an entrepreneur? Is there any...
What, if you're looking for a next job, are you looking for investment or?
Okay, yeah.
Is that what your question is? If you're looking for, if you're in between roles or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're obviously in between roles, then it's good to say something like, either looking for a new opportunity, because that way people then know about you, know who you are, know you're looking, or it could be, seeking new opportunities out, looking for, open for consultancy or independent consultant, because then you get the best of both worlds. But there's a thin line between letting headhunters and people who are looking for people know, looking for a new job, and then basically appearing slightly desperate, because if you're basically seeking a new job and it's up there for like 6 months, then obviously people go, well, he was looking for a job about 6 months ago, what happened to him? So it's best to have things like independent consultant and then reach out and ask people for a coffee and do it more subtly that way, but also have something on there and change the headline around saying, looking for new opportunities, looking for ventures, consulting whilst looking for new opportunities. I mean, there's a million of ways you could actually phrase it to actually do that. But yeah, no, it's very important. Notifications for the anniversary obviously is a great way to engage. Because as soon as something that comes through, you can connect with somebody, write them a personalized message saying congratulations on your anniversary. You had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, when you run your business LinkedIn account and you want to create the traffic by using the strategy 411 about those posts, right? So what to do to dodge the negative outcome? What I mean is when people start to unfollow me because they think like, okay, this is not related to your business.
Yep.
So what should we do in this case?
If someone unfollows you?
Yeah, like for example, when you see like the decrease in your follows or something like this, what's like the thinking?
What did you post that you see a decrease in your followers?
This is like my speculation, let's say.
Is this your friend? Is it your friend posted something and his followers are decreasing? Is that what you're telling me? Your friend?
I'm just thinking what's like the process behind those numbers 411. What's like...
I mean, basically, people shouldn't be. It's very rare that your numbers would go down unless you really, someone's like, basically got some kind of campaign against you, and they're basically deliberately focusing on people to unfollow you. So the 411 is you can unfollow people with still being connected to them. So what I mean by that is you stop seeing their feeds. There's a little button that says stop seeing, I think it says stop seeing their content, stop seeing their feeds, but you're still connected. So you get the benefit of being connected to them, i.e. their connections, without seeing their feed. So I often do this to Americans, so to pick on Americans again, if any Americans in the room. But basically, Americans start going on about Trump. I basically report them as abuse and say it's inappropriate for LinkedIn, and then unfollow their feed so I never see it again. But still have them because they might have 30,000 connections. They might actually lead me into clients. But I get the best of them, i.e. just their connections, without seeing any of their crap content, basically. So that's normally the best way of doing it. But the 411 is all about respecting the fact that people following you do not want to be sold to on a minutely basis. That's why you have to put things in your headline that sells whilst you share some engaging content. So I shared something about, I want to share something interesting the other day, nothing to do with LinkedIn whatsoever, but my headline says I'm doing the social selling conference in Melbourne on Friday. So, and then people said, oh yeah, no, I saw that. By the way, I'm going to come to your conference on Friday. So I'm selling it, but not selling it. But by giving genuine content, by curating content, whether that's content you find on the internet, you know, I use things like Google Alerts, for example, or whether it's content you made up yourself and wrote yourself, which is always best, or a photograph, you know, something genuine. People like to see that, but don't just be selling your service all the time. That's all that 411 means. It just means respect the fact that people do not want to be sold to on a daily, you know, minutely basis. Yes?
I was thinking about that 6 post strategy. You told there was a LinkedIn recommendation.
Yeah.
And that was something about like, you're doing this by day, by week. How often you used to do like one strong sale, soft sale, 4 aleatory things? You do 6 posts one day or during a week?
Well, I do the maximum I probably can do. I do one every couple of hours, basically every single day. Because I'm not just targeting Australia. I'm targeting Singapore, Australia, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Zurich, London, San Francisco, New York. So you have to look at the time zones. So you're basically posting to hit different people in different time zones when they go to work, when they come home from work. So you have to adapt your content in that particular way. So I might serve some European content when Europe's up, or some Australian content when New Zealand gets up and Australia gets up, for example. So you're thinking about how to use that. So I use a platform called Hootsuite to do that, which basically plans in my content. So people say to me, you posted something at 3 o'clock in the morning. I say, no, I didn't. So I just use a platform to actually do it. So basically you have to think about who you're using. But a lot of people aren't comfortable with doing that. It does, and obviously people do unfollow me because I share a lot. But basically, more people engage, and more people who I engage with are more important to me than people who unfollow me. So basically, and there are more than enough people out there who basically you can use to actually drive your business forward, who will amplify your content. But it has to be good content though.
About creativity, you used to keep a file with good ideas that you have during the day, because I imagine if I'm opening a small business and I need to do the create a consistent magic, how can I create all these posts to do 6 at least per day?
The best way to do it is on a plane. What I found is on a plane, then you have no internet connection. Basically, you have a glass of champagne, and then basically you let your imagination wander, and you've got like 6 hours, or my place, 8 hours. I wrote like 6 blogs on the way over here on Sunday, because I had 8 hours. Basically, no one was interrupting me. The Wi-Fi wasn't working, so I was able to do basically a lot of work by using Wi-Fi. But you need to allocate time to do it. And yeah, come up with ideas and just jot it down. But the best thing also, you can create content as well. So find content using things like Google Alerts. So I use Google Alerts, things like personal branding, entrepreneur, LinkedIn. And when I find a bit of content that they send through to me on a daily basis, I share that, as long as it's interesting. So it doesn't have to be things you think about. It has to be things that are interesting to your peers. But obviously, you do short form posts. Come up with an idea today. You can write it tonight or tomorrow morning just by doing 350 words or 100 words. It doesn't have to be Shakespeare. Just be something interesting. It could be just a picture of you doing an event. It could be a picture of you just doing work, or a picture that you saw as it being interesting. It doesn't have to be something that's rocket science, because basically the feed's going to go. So you have to look at it as not too preciously and think about the fact that it's merely something that's going to basically fill someone's time for a few seconds and then they're going to move on. So don't overthink it. You're not creating the new Shakespeare. Just go for it. Just try it and see what happens. Yeah.
If I want to connect build a connection in
Yeah.
the international world,
Yeah.
of course it's better to use English.
Yeah.
But if my background Japan,
Yep.
it's still common to make a personal
Japanese translate. Yeah,
Japanese.
yeah, you can do that.
So
Yeah,
if we can, approach someone
yeah.
that written in Japanese is better.
Yeah.
I think, but
You can do, yeah.
how I can
You can do both. No, you can do both. You can do basically your English version, and then LinkedIn gives you the option of basically putting it in another language. So you can put it in Japanese, put it in Chinese, put it in Bahasa, you can put it in Hindi, you can put it anything you want. So you basically,
function or
yeah, there's a function in it in the summary section, and it says, do you want to translate, do you want to, I think it says something like, do you want to translate this into another language? And then you put the new language in, and then you basically translate it, and then you have to spell check it, because obviously it's a bit like Google, it's not perfect, and basically make sure it makes sense in your language. And then when someone reads it from that country, or has chosen to read it in, say, Chinese or Japanese, for example, in your case, they will see the Japanese version, not the English version. So yes, LinkedIn allows you to do that. I think it's got like about 50 different languages at the moment, and they're building up to make sure all the languages. But obviously English is by far and away the number one used. And when you share, it should be in English, because that thing doesn't happen. So if you share in Japanese, then every single person in the world who doesn't speak Japanese won't be able to read what it says. And then they may unfollow you as a result of it. So I have several people in Scandinavia who insist on speaking Danish or Norwegian in their posts, and I'm thinking, really? There's like about 5 people on LinkedIn who can understand this post, and you shared it, and you know English, because I know people in Denmark and they all know English. You're just being kind of like, pedantic, basically. So do think about that. There's 2 different ways of looking at your profile and then sharing. If you only want Japanese people to read it and you're sharing, then fine, read it and put it in Japanese. But if you want the rest of the world to read it, then you have to put it in English, unfortunately. Okay. Question over here. Yes?
Yes, Chris, what would be maybe your strategy or tip how to approach, how to do a posting to groups? For example, if I let's say would like to post something and target CEOs of Australia,
yeah.
I know that it is a group of 100,000 people. So how to tackle it, how to approach it compared to...
So obviously you have to pick out your groups. So you can be into about 100 groups. The reason I didn't cover the groups is because LinkedIn have a very strange relationship with groups, and they're effectively trying to get rid of them at the moment. So we don't see much of a future in groups, partly because people have ruined them. It's very hard to manage a group, very hard to post in a group, very hard to control a group. We control several, and it is very hard to get people to engage, because basically people just fill it with spam. So there are some good groups out there, like Harvard Business Review, for example, digital marketing professionals, that kind of thing, but it's very, very hard to actually get engagement going in a group. It's better to get an engagement going, sharing your content in your feeds, and then tag people to start commenting on your feed, because then you control it. And the essence there is you're driving people to your profile, who then you can see who viewed your profile, and then pick people from up that and connect with them because they're engaging with you. It's hard to do that in a group because they're part of the group. So you can do it in a group, but it's just not advisable at the moment until LinkedIn have figured out what they want to do with groups. But it's a very good question, because it's one of those anomalies. They have no clue what they want to do with the groups. You got a question?
In my country, I wanted to sell some products.
Yep.
So to the big retail companies. So I tried to connect a lot of project management, or product management. So my question is, how do you connect with them to the in the how do you say?
Personalize it?
When you send a message, what do you say? You have to say to the message. You have to say all the information about your product, or just
No. Don't say any information about your product.
Or just
You've only got 299 characters. You've got 299 characters, and it's very, very short. So what you have to do not sell your product, because I get millions of people from India who basically say, I do SEO, or I'm an engineer and I've got the app for you. And I think I've heard that at least 100 other times today from also people from India. And basically you have to say, I'd love to share, we have something in common. We both know marketing people. We know 100 people in common. We share connections. That's always a good plus point. People think, okay, he knows 100 people I know. And then you say, we're in the same industry. Okay, share connections in the same industry, in the same country always helps as well. And then say, I'd love to share your content with my followers. And they go, oh, this person would love to share my content with his followers. Fantastic. So you give them a benefit. So you're showing them 2 or 3 areas where you have something in common, and then you're saying what's in it for them. Do not go in and go, I've got a product for you, buy me, because then they go, delete, ignore, delete, ignore, delete, ignore. And literally, I do that all the time. All the SEO people from India, I just basically go, I'm sorry, I have 30,000 connections. I'd love to connect with you, but I can't. Please follow me. Because it's just like you're trying to get something out of me without even engaging. Whereas if someone had bothered to say, like the Irish girl there, I accepted her because she was cheeky enough to say, you know what, I can flatter you, Chris, but you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write a nice recommendation for you if you accept my invitation. Which I thought was really, really cool because she'd taken some time to actually bother doing it. She'd seen on my profile that I did a post about, I had 400 recommendations. So she obviously saw that was important to my profile and thought she'd bribe me, which I thought was really funny. And as a result of that, I basically accepted her and she's been sharing my stuff ever since and she's really cool. So, you know, you have to give something back, and then once they accept, then you can start selling your products. Because then they've accepted you, but start sharing and commenting on their product, on their profile first. Don't just like accept their profile and then go, hey, you want to buy my product? Don't do that. Just take it easy, wait a couple of days, and then say, hey, buy my product. Yeah, do it that way. But also, you know, give something back. Because then they're much more likely to engage with you and talk to you. There's a question here. Yes, another question for you.
Going back to the core side of things, you've got multiple people in your company that are all intending on sharing stuff.
Yep.
How do you manage that? Do you put that into your social media as well, or do you just have a discussion? Say there's 4 of you on the management team.
Yeah.
And obviously you've all got a network of different followers, so you kind of want to capture as many people as possible. But how do you maintain, like, you know, if we're all posting something that's of interest that perhaps, well, that's of interest as a value. How do you manage that? Because it's all coming back to the company.
It's a very good question. I mean, the way to do that would be to center it around your company page, and then have everyone follow the company page and share from the company page. Because if you do that, then you have one feed in the company page, and then the company logo and branding comes up when you share it. Because your feed should not be the same as everybody else's feed in the company. It's personal to you. And that doesn't mean like the 411 rule. It should not just be the company, because that just looks like you've been told to do this and you're posting it. It should be about you, what you care about, which would be different to the other management team who'd be doing something else. But the company page will be consistent about the company, about the services, about the industry they're in, about giving genuine back. And even the company page should do the same thing. So I talk about LinkedIn and personal branding on there, but not about our service. It's just about examples of entrepreneurs across the world using personal branding or big entrepreneurs. Because it's relevant to my target audience. I'm giving something back and they can genuinely share that, but it benefits me because obviously they market black marketing or dark art as a result of it. So you got to give something back for someone to share, but your personal feed should be created for you, and your blog should be yours, your short post should be you, your photograph should be you. It shouldn't just be the company.
So my feed would be me and what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
The odd share of the company.
Yes. Correct. There's a question here? No? Question here? Question, yeah.
I want to ask 2 questions. Okay, so first,
2 questions.
Yeah. So what are the other trends to foresee with regards to LinkedIn? Because you mentioned many things which are really insightful, like microblogging and visual content, and that they're trying to close this tool for messaging with ads, but some other things maybe?
Yeah, well, video is the next one. I touched on video. They've only just introduced video in people's lives on the feed, so they're a bit behind things like Facebook, but video is phenomenally important. People are using video time and time again now because they're realizing that's where it's going to go. So people are going to be doing more and more video feeds and posts on LinkedIn than ever before. It's going to be basically packed full of video in about 6 months' time, and it works. People like to view it, but don't do long video. It has to be, like mine was literally 90 seconds. 90 seconds is just about right to get a few points over, get your character over, get your personality over, and communicate what you want to do. So, no more than that. If you start going on for 5, 6, 7 minutes, people just like YouTube will just stop watching. But video is going to be phenomenally important. You can use video in your short posts. You can use video in your post like that. You can use video as main posts. You can use video to answer people. You can use video in long posts. You can share video from your YouTube channel, and basically video is just phenomenally important. And also video, you can watch the video on the LinkedIn platform without leaving it. And that's very important. People don't like leaving the platform. They like to watch the video or see the content on the platform, which is why the short form posts work. You don't have to leave it. You basically read the whole thing, and people are lazy. They just basically don't want to move away. They read the post and that's it, they're gone. So video is going to be the ultimate content killer when it comes to LinkedIn. But obviously in a business context. Don't do a wedding of don't do a video of your wedding or your birth or your death or somebody who's ill or, it's just like someone's birthday or, don't do things like that. Unless, of course, your business is weddings, deaths, birthdays, illness, in that case, of course, share videos about that. But yeah, no, video I would say was the number one thing. And everyone can do it. Everyone's got a phone, everyone's got a video. Everyone's got something that can record video. So you can do a video now, you can say, Chris was amazing at this thing, go and see Chris on Friday in the Melbourne Social Selling Conference on video.
Yeah, and then
Oh, sorry, second question, yes.
how did you find it writing a book? Do you have a background in writing, or just because for me it's usually very hard to public speaking or writing, and I am interested in this, so it's interesting.
It's a very, very good question because everyone wants to write a book, and a lot of people don't know how to do it. I kind of got around it by writing lots of blogs, and then realized I'd written a book in blogs. So when someone suggested to me to write a book because it was very good at personal branding, it's very good at handing out to people, and it's much better than a business card, people remember you more, they engage with your content, I basically just compacted my blogs about LinkedIn into one book. So what my book is basically, is basically a lot of my books and my blogs and interviews about LinkedIn. And the second book is lots of my interviews and blogs about personal branding, because the best one in the world, my post on LinkedIn didn't get to that many people, but in a book it gets more formats and is formatted in a different way. And the key to content marketing is often just reformatting. So you do it as short form, you do it as long form, you do it as a photograph, you do it as an infographic, you do it as a video, and then you do it as a book, and you do it as a talk. My talk here is basically what my book is talking about. Just obviously it's more kind of like top line. So all you do is reformat it. So I'd start with blogging, and then get a collection of blogs that have a theme, and then put it together as a book. And you'd be amazed, people just like that because it's all in one place. And people might have read one of your blogs, but they wouldn't have read all your blogs. So start with blogs and then just kind of go from there and build up. And then you get more confidence. Well, I think this is dead easy, because if you wrote 50 blogs and they're all 1,000 words, you've got 50,000 words. Simple as that. It might take you a bit of time, but you get my point. It could take you like 3 months or 6 months to do it, and it would work.
You can sell it.
You can sell a book. You can. Well, I don't use the book to make money. I use the book to basically market the services. It's personal branding, basically. And people get confused. I met a guy the other day who basically had a big ambition to write a book about content marketing. He thought he was going to become a millionaire. I hate to shatter his illusions. You see the blood just drained out of his face. Oh, you mean, I'm not going to make millions of dollars selling a book about content marketing? No. You have to basically just use the content marketing book because he wants to become a content marketing entrepreneur. And he thought he could do both. You can't. And I met lots of people who basically produce a fantastic book and then sell it for $30, and like 5 people buy it, one of them's their mother, and basically like, oh shit, I didn't make any money. And it didn't help my business either because nobody read the book. You can't do both. You can't make millions of dollars like J.K. Rowling from your book and sell your business. J.K. Rowling doesn't have a business to sell. I mean, it's basically her book is her book. Whereas we have our business to sell, so use your book to sell your business. And it works phenomenally well. It doesn't have to be a thick book or even as thick as that. It can be a smaller book, and it can be just a digital book, audio book. And I've done all formats because I found that people like the audiobook, people like the hardback, people like the paperback, people like Kindle. Just do it as a Kindle. You don't have any paper cost there. So if you just start off as a Kindle, it really doesn't cost you anything. Or electronic book, do a digital download. It's really, really simple. The costs are very, very small then. You can publish yourself. Very straightforward. Was there any question over here? I noticed everyone's lack of enthusiasm. Now I've run out of books.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.